Hey everyone, welcome back to Bucky's Customs. In this video, I'm going to show you how I took a bunch of different kinds of hardwoods and made one of the largest cutting boards I've ever made. And also, using those different types of hardwoods, made this inlay. So stay with us and we'll show you how we did it. Okay, a couple of things I did here. We've got the cutting board is mounted in the LongMill. I've used my 1, 2, 3 blocks to space it away from the front limits. The other reason I use these is because this stop that I have here is parallel to my x-axis, and that positions my board square to the x-axis, square to the y now. So I found the center of my board, and what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the mill down. We'll fire up G-Sender and we'll bring the mill down, zero the center, zero the Z, and then we'll start the carve for the inlay pocket portion, or the female portion of the inlay.
I really appreciate you joining us today. But before we go any further, I want to say thank you to this week's sponsor, Siencilabs, the makers of the LongMill benchtop CNC, just like the one we use here in our shop. If you're in the market for a CNC machine and you're not really sure what to get, go to their website, sienci.com, and order your mill today. You'll be really happy you did. Now let's get back to our video.
What I've done is I've put my 1/8 inch end mill in the router, and I brought the router, started up G-Sender, brought the router down, and we're going to zero the center of this board. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to send this Z down as far as I can. We'll even screw it down just to get it close, and then we'll use the motions to get it to where we want it, because I definitely want it in the center of this board. I want it to be as accurate as possible in the center of the board. Doesn't have to be perfect. Once I get it set, I'm going to be using that center for the avocado pit carve. So you'll see what I mean when we get to that. So basically we're right where we need to be. Now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to zero the X. That's zeroed. I'm going to zero the Y. The X is this way, the Y is this way. So now that is done. So we can crank this up, and I can get my touch probe out, put it underneath. We want to flip it so that the indented portion is up. Make sure our plug is all the way in. Put the magnet on and come over here to select Z only. Doesn't matter what size the bit is. Now we want to touch to get contact and start the probe. And this is going to set our Z, or up and down our Z. Why they call them Z, I have no idea. Put the touch probe back. That wire out of the way. Now, basically, we're set up right now to start our carve. The only thing we don't have is our dust boot, and I want to get that on there. And we're going to have to raise this up. so I can put my dust boot on. Now, once I get this on, we'll start the file. Let's go loading the file here, and we're going to use the USB. We're going to rock out, open that. Now, it's going to get exciting. This is right, our Z point, or our 0 point is right there. You notice how it's off the board or off the carving surface, but it's really not, because my 0 is up here. So it's going to carve directly in the center of this board. Let's do the dust boot. We'll get that in here, and we'll move over here. We'll get the camera a little bit over into here, and we'll bring you a little bit closer so you can see what it's going to do now. We'll start router. Then we can click the start button in G-Sender and get this thing going. This carve is one of the largest carves I've ever done as far as an inlay. It is the largest so far. Typically I would go through a tutorial on how I created the program itself or the file for carving, but I decided not to do that in this case. I think what I'm going to do is, like I always do, I'm going to offer that file in the description. There'll be a link so you can download it. You can use it, edit it, do whatever you wish with it, and maybe in the future, if you all want to see exactly step by step of how I created this, I'd be happy to do a video for you. But in this case, this video was pretty long as it was, and I thought maybe I would just avoid that at this particular point. So as you can see, the carve is just about done, and I think it came out pretty good. What I've done is I've completely hand sanded this. Got all the burrs off of it. Now, because there's some short areas, some small areas where that 1/8 inch bit kind of struggled a little bit, left a nub, you got to sand them off, and you got to bevel the back side, the part that goes in, and I'll show you here in a second. That's what you need to do. So in hindsight, I probably should have done this big old carve for my first one and given me the experience. And then, you know, that one, the one I did 3-4 weeks ago of the letter K, that was cake, you know, with a K. But anyway, there's a lot of work to an inlay, especially if you're doing multiple letters, and you know, there's a lot of work. So be prepared for that. So I'll show you what I got here. Now you can see it matches up really well, and it just fits. There isn't a few imperfections around it, and I guess we're gonna have to live with that. It's not absolutely perfect, which kind of sucks because I like perfect. So I think what I'm gonna do is throw a bunch of glue in there, and I'm going to give it a go. We'll set it in, see what happens. Okay, let's try this and see. Not too bad at all. Got a little bit on this side that's showing, but not too bad. I think we'll be okay with that. Now we got the guitar in. That's a plus. Now we just got to cut the rest and see how that goes. We're gonna pick this thing apart and do what we can do here. I'm kind of liking the way it's going to come out. I'm excited about it. I think I'm going to put a weight on top of that for now while I'm carving the other things out. And that doesn't fit too bad for the size of the material it is. So we're going to work on some cherry. I'm going to build up some cherry, and this is going to be for the letters. And we're going to use this maple. It's really pretty. The avocado. I wish the knot was a little closer to the center of the board. I could have used that as the pit, but didn't work out. I looked, I didn't have anything that I could use. So I think I'm going to use some walnut that I have for the pit. And yeah, we'll get to it, and you know the deal. Sand, work on it, take your time, put them in, and then glue each piece. Don't try to do the whole thing at once. Do them separately, and you won't have any issues. Hopefully things will go well, and we'll get her to the end for you. I put these two pieces together, a piece of plywood, because I don't want to lower the bit too much and reach my extents. So what I did was I used a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch, 5/8 inch, and used some painter's tape and some super glue, 2P10 with activator. And now what we're going to do is use my grid, and I'm just going to line this up. A couple of clamps. We can zero off this corner, this front corner. Be good to go.
Now this is the only inlay carve that I showed you, and it pretty much is pretty basic as far as cutting out the male portion. It has a separate file which easel creates, and along with the female portion. And you just go ahead and get your stock ready and carve through the stock, and that is your inlay. And as you can see here, I placed the avocados in there, glued them in, sanded them off, and now we're getting ready to do all the letters. Now I cut all the letters out of cherry, and I glued or I sanded each letter to the finish so that it would fit in the pocket, and they fit pretty well. So this went pretty uneventful. And as you can see, I weighted them down just to hold them in. I did that overnight. I came back, set up the program, and cut out the avocados. And then I went ahead and cut out the pit portion or the male portion to fit in the avocado pit area or that clearance, and glue that in, and then we get ready for sanding. Now I didn't have a thin piece of walnut, so I just cut deep enough and then used my bandsaw to cut the pieces out.
Okay, so we're at the point now where all the inlays are glued in. I just did the final. This was a very nerve-wracking carve, but you know, numbers don't lie. So I set up the numbers the way they were supposed to be set up, zeroed out on the center of the board, and it put them in there perfectly. I'm sure my daughter will love it. I just need to do some sanding, and After that, we'll put the magic oil on it and we'll show you what we come up with.
The view passes through the Laguna drum sander, makes final sanding a breeze.
Wow, this is a huge cutting board. I never realized just how big a 21-inch by 30-inch cutting board was going to be. You know, when I started putting the materials together to glue this up, I was like, man, this is huge. I'm not even sure the person I'm giving this to is going to be able to carry it to where she wants to do this. So, but anyway, I think it came out pretty good. I used some maple for the avocado. I found some that really came out nice. The pits, I used walnut. And for the rest of the letters, I used cherry, my favorite wood. And throughout this board, there's some beech, there's some maple, there's even a piece of curly maple here, and some walnut. So it's a menagerie of a whole bunch of hardwoods, and I really hope she likes it. I think it came out great. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you can get notified when I post again. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Be safe out there.